So at this point, I do want to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Shannon Toohey. She actually did an education fellowship. She's at UC Irvine, and she's going to be the new program director at UC Irvine. So everybody congratulate her on that. And she is going to talk to you about how to teach people like you, i.e. millennials. So please welcome Dr. Toohey.
All right, is this on? All right, guys. Hi, I'm Shannon. So we're going to talk about a couple different teaching techniques that you guys can take straight to your didactics. You're only chiefs for a year, so I'd like you to be able to walk out with some techniques that you can actually use. Let's see. Probably. Maybe this side would be better. All right, can you guys hear me better? Yes? Everyone in the back can hear me? Great. All right, so first of all, let's define some terms. Passive learning. Passive learning is what I'm doing right this very instant. I'm talking at you, right? This is what most of us went through college doing. This is what most of us went through all of our secondary education doing. People talk at you, you're supposed to pay attention, but nowadays you're probably playing on your phone and not paying attention. So, not the best way. So let's talk about what active learning is. Active learning is something that requires a higher level of engagement from learners. It can be as simple as creating small groups where you have a single instructor with 5 or 6 learners. A lot harder to not pay attention or fall asleep in the corner when you have a small group like that. It can be something like simulation. It can be something like team-based learning. How many of you guys have participated in a team-based learning exercise before? Okay, quite a few of you guys. It's becoming more common, especially in undergraduate medical education, and it's slowly becoming more common in graduate education. So, lecture wouldn't be a lecture without objectives. Today we're going to describe some ways so that you guys can encourage active learning in your conferences. You guys are going to participate in and understand the components of a team-based learning session. You're going to review some options for audience response systems for your lectures, list some options for small group learning and games, as well as resources where you can go get options that you do not have to make. And then we're going to hopefully have some time to review a little bit of slide design skills. If we don't get to that, all of my slides are online. I made poor Carolyn panic because I had 112 slides. I'm well aware we're not getting through all of those, but there are some excellent slide examples that you guys can just go on and steal them. That's what they're for. Take them, just turn them into your own. My goal is to make everyone's didactics better, even if you're just stealing stuff. So, first of all, let's talk about some cookies. So everyone at their table should have a pile of learning materials that says Cookie IRAT. Be careful, because there's also a GRAT and a GAE. But there should be a Cooking IRAT. This table needs some, please. So everyone grab a Cookie IRAT. All right. So the first part of a traditional team-based learning is going to be learner-responsible content. So in undergraduate medical education, often that's a book chapter or an article, something like that. For us, residents are busy. I know that. A lot of my TBLs don't have any learner-responsible content at all, or it's something that's FOAM-Ed, or it's a very short article we read at the beginning of the didactic, or it's a video. Oops. All right. So you guys are going to learn a little bit about baking cookies, and then you're going to take a test. Hopefully I have audio.
Do you ever have a hard time making the perfect chocolate chip cookie?
Shannon, what is your perfect chocolate chip cookie recipe? What does it include?
Well, there's chocolate chips, flour, brown sugar, white sugar, butter, vanilla, baking soda, eggs.
You're making me very hungry. But I think the proportion of those ingredients can really make a difference in the texture of your cookie as well as the flavor of your cookie.
You know, you're right. I actually think of cookie baking as more of a science than an art.
I've never thought of it that way. I like that. But you're right, absolutely right, because ingredients like flour can really make a difference in the consistency of your cookie. It can determine whether it's crumbly, it can determine whether it's chewy. For example, very dense cookies like biscotti tend to be very crisp, and that's because they have a very high proportion of flour. Whereas brownies, on the other hand, have a very low proportion of flour, making them more chewy and soft.
Interesting. The next ingredient that everyone thinks of when making cookies is sugar. Now, sugar gives cookies that irresistible sweetness that we all crave in a cookie.
I cannot imagine a cookie without any sugar.
I can't imagine it would taste very good. Now there's two kinds of sugar. One's brown sugar,
And the other's white sugar. Now, white sugar tends to make cookies when you have a higher proportion of white sugar in your cookies. Your cookies tend to be a little bit more crisp, as well as a little bit browner because of the caramelization process. If you look at these cookies were made with a high ratio of white sugar to brown sugar. And if you break them apart, you'll notice that they're a little bit crisper.
brown sugar has a higher proportion of molasses. That means it will give your cookies a softer, chewier quality because it adds moisture to the cookie. Now when you break these open, they have that soft quality that some people like in their cookies.
Shannon, what sort of fat do you use in your cookies?
You know, it really depends. I think the recipe I have calls for margarine, but sometimes it's whatever I have lying around the house.
You know, there are a few important small differences between margarine and butter. For example, butter has a lower melting point than margarine, and so that tends to make cookies a little bit more crisper and a little bit flatter.
Interesting. So these cookies were made with butter.
They were?
That is a crisp cookie.
Yup.
So then if I made a cookie with margarine or shortening instead, it would have a higher melting point and would therefore be a less flat, or I guess thicker cookie, and would not be as crisp.
That's correct.
Wow, I'm learning so much today.
I know, it's a fun day. Shannon, have you ever wondered why cookie recipes call for eggs?
You know, I have, and when I was younger and a little geekier and had more free time, I looked it up once. And it turns out the egg provides protein that helps all of the ingredients mix together better. But additionally, if you add a higher proportion of eggs, for example, if your recipe calls for 2 and you add a third, it'll give you a chewier, cakier cookie.
Oh, interesting. Well, this morning I found out the hard way why baking soda is important for cookies.
You didn't have any baking soda?
Well, I did, but I just forgot to combine it. And baking soda actually aerates the cookies, making them a little bit more puffy. And so this batch this morning, I did forget the baking soda, and you'll notice that they're really pale and kind of flat.
Those don't look very tasty.
No, they're not.
Okay, well,
What about salt? Have you ever forgotten salt?
you know, I have, and I've actually compared 2 batches of cookies with and without salt. And while it seems odd, the salt provides an alternative flavor that really enhances and brings out the sweetness of the cookies. It's better with the salt.
I agree. I like a little salt in my cookies. So in addition to the ingredients, the way you bake the cookies can have a tremendous influence on how the cookies turn out.
Really? How so?
Well, so for example, temperature can make a difference. So these cookies were cooked at a higher temperature for a shorter period of time. And so they tend to be a little bit thicker and a little bit chewier.
That's a thick cookie.
And then these cookies, on the other hand, were baked at a lower temperature for a longer period of time. So these cookies tend to be a little bit thinner and a little bit crisper.
That is a big difference.
Absolutely. Which cookie do you think you'd like better?
I'm a thick, chewy cookie kind of gal.
Me too.
You know, my understanding is that mixing can also affect your cookies.
Absolutely.
Now, your mixing is important initially to combine all the ingredients together, but over-mixing can yield tough cookies.
We don't want tough cookies.
This has been so much fun talking to you about cookie science today.
This has been a lot of fun. Almost as fun as eating them.
All right, guys. So I know it's a little silly, but I like to have something that most of you guys probably don't know anything about so that we can actually make sure you learn something. So there's the learner responsible content. There's also a single copy of the article at every table if you want to reference. So go through the IRAT alone. So that's why it's an individual readiness assessment test. And based on the learner responsible content, the LRC that you just completed, answer the questions and see how ready you are for today's TBL. I'll give you guys just a couple minutes. There's only 7 questions. So raise your hand if you don't have an IRAT. One of the students will come by and get you one. That's the only thing. Yeah, that was the only one. I forgot to check that audio. No, I didn't think about it. I was already up there. I was like, I'll just stand here. It was fine. Oh, yeah, sure. So I actually... All right, guys, so just for the sake of time, we're going to start moving on. So that would be the IRAT. So if we were to Didactic, you would potentially have them watch a FOMED video or listen to a quick podcast or ask them to do that at home. And then when everyone comes together, you start with an IRAT, which is an individual readiness and assessment test to see how each individual person understands the core of the content that you're covering today. Now, the GRAT, which everyone should have at their table, so the GRAT is looks almost identical to the IRAT, but it's got little silver squares on it. So everyone should have one of these at your table. Your table is your group. You are now going to do the group readiness assessment test. The little silver boxes are scratch-off stickers. So try to only scratch off one and see if you get the right answer. Talk to your group, decide what you think the right answer is, and scratch off the single answer you think is correct. There will be a star under it if you're correct. There will just be the letter under it if you are incorrect, okay? This is called an IFAT. An immediate feedback assessment test. So GRATs can be different formats. This particular GRAT is an IFAT, where you guys, without me, I can run a room of 200 of you guys, and you are all still in your groups as you work through getting immediate feedback on what your answer is. Nails work too. I don't know how you guys feel about getting it under your nails, but. Oh, she got it. I was say nail works pretty well. You guys are going for D? Winner! Nice. Got until 35 minutes. 15. You guys, almost perfect. There are some active debates going on here. All right, guys, 30 more seconds, so come to a consensus, find your answers. That's the one you're going to want next, your group application exercise. So you guys are going to work through this next. I'll talk about it in a minute. So just making sure everyone has one. Perfect. So the only one left. All right, guys. So obviously, if we were in a normal didactic, this would be a much longer session, and I'd give you guys more time to make sure every group finished, but we're going to go ahead and move on. So that was a group readiness assessment test. So the group readiness assessment test is traditionally identical to the IRAT. You take your individual answers and you basically debate. And I heard some good debates. There was a lot of anger up here about what makes chewy cookies. There was some frustration in the back about white sugar. So, you know, I know it's a silly example, but if I do something medicine, you guys are going to have varying levels of knowledge about it. I'd rather take something that most of you guys probably know nothing about, so you guys can see what it can actually effectively teach you. So the last thing we're going to do is the group application exercise. So everyone should have one of these at their tables, and it basically, sorry, can I swipe it for 1 second? It's a recipe and then questions. It says group application exercise on it. So everyone grab that, and in the same way, start working through the questions. There's just 3 questions. So now you are going to apply the knowledge that you learned. You guys did the learner responsible content, you did the IRAT, you did the GRAT, you understand these concepts. Now you're going to apply it as a group. I till 10:15, is that right? 10:15?
10:55. That would move everything back by 5. Oh, no, you're until
11:15.
11:15.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that's what I thought. No, that's okay. All right, guys, it's getting a little quiet. So that's a group application exercise. So if we were covering something medical, obviously it would probably be cases with questions instead, where you talk about the next step in diagnosis, instead of changing cookie ingredients. And if we were finishing up a didactic session, now I would spend the next 10 to 15 minutes actually going through the answers and going group to group and saying, hey, for question 1, what did you guys say? And then discussing it as a large group. But the wonder of TBLs, and this is less of an issue for chiefs, because generally you guys are going to have very small groups, but I can teach a room of 200 in an engaging way with one instructor. It just takes a little while to make the IFATs, okay? So the scratch-off stickers, just so you guys know, they're available on Amazon. Just Google scratch-off sticker. I just cut them to size, plop them on there. It really doesn't take that long, especially if you're only doing a group of 20, 30 residents, okay? But you guys got immediate feedback on exactly what the answer was. And how many of you guys noticed that one of them had 2 answers? Number 2 has 2 answers. I see someone in the back who did. So you can be mean like that, all right? So that is the definition of a classic TBL. So there was a learner responsible contact, there was IRAT, there was GRAT, and there was a group application exercise. I don't think all TBLs have to be the classic format. So we do a lot of modified TBLs, where maybe I'm presenting something on a slide. So for example, this is one of our TBLs. So this is the red-eye TBL. And so we just put this up as a slide, and everyone has a table where they have to match diagnoses to each image, all right? And so that is the IRAT. Then they get together with a group and they compare their answers and try to come to consensus. That would be their GRAT. And then the group application exercise in the red eye is a bunch of cases on treatments and diagnosis. All right? So that's an example. So for example, I could say one of the matching might be closure or narrowing of the anterior chamber angle causing elevated intraocular pressure and eventual optic nerve damage. And you would need to match that to H, which is the picture of acute angle glaucoma. Okay? So there's a lot of different ways to do this, and that kind of TBL doesn't require learner-responsible content because most of you guys should already have a basis in what causes the acute red eye. So it would just be an IRAT, a GRAT, and a group application exercise. So let's talk about audience response systems. So there's a lot of audience response systems out there. They come up all over the place. My two favorites are Poll Everywhere and Kahoot. Socrative is okay. Slido's fine. Mentimeter, some people really like. So you can kind of play with which ones you want. You guys are all millennials. You guys could probably pick this stuff up easier than me. So ways we can use this. It's good for solidification of knowledge. In the middle of a lecture, does everyone understand what's going on? Can I test that? Add a question, see if they're getting it. You can do team competitions. So with Poll Everywhere, you can actually section people out into like the R1s, the R2s, the R3s, the R4s, and then have them compete. So that's really fun. And you can also just do it in place of hand raising. Maybe someone doesn't want to admit that they don't understand. Very, very basic thing. And so instead, they can put it into an audience response system. So you guys are going to want your devices. So grab your phones, grab your computers. There's two different ways to log in, because I just want you guys to experience what it's like. So we're going to do Poll Everywhere and Kahoot. So you can either do it via text. You go to you text UCIEM to 22333. Or you can do it via web. You go to pollev.com/UCIEM. Whichever format you prefer. So you text UCIEM to 22333, or go to pollev.com/UCIEM. All right. So one more time, text UCIEM to 22333, or if you're going to do it on the web, pollev.com/UCIEM. All right, so what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And if you look on your device, it should give you a little poll, and you can answer it. Oh, cookies and cream is winning. Oh, no, mint chocolate chip, it's not going to make it. All right, but in medicine, I could make this a multiple choice question and see how many people are getting things right, how many people are getting things wrong, how many people are understanding what I'm teaching. All right? So you can do bar graphs like this. Yeah, cookies and cream, wow, just way out there. Those other ones are just not going to catch up. No one likes rainbow sherbet. That's always true. I don't know why. All right, guys. Next one. It's sticking. So all technology depends on Wi-Fi, and sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't want to participate. All right. What is your favorite ice cream pizza topping? This is a type-in. All right, so instead of having a set number of answers, you guys can type in whatever you want. So if I was in the middle of a lecture, I could say, what doesn't make sense? And everyone could anonymously say what questions they have without feeling silly or stupid. Bacon, olives, onion, sausage, all good options. Cheese, yeah. All right, so you guys can kind of see how that works. So it'll just keep being a stream of every answer. And so it's a good way to have people ask questions if you've got a large group and you may or maybe have pineapple. Not normal pineapple, but shameless pineapple. All right. Which one of these patients has hypothyroidism? Hyper, sorry. All right, so the vast majority of the people think C. We have a few people who think A. That's probably more of a myxedema issue. I don't think he does. And yes, the exophthalmosis, probably all hyperthyroidism. All right, so last example. Where's the lesion? There we go. So most people saying LAD. All right, so these are just a couple of examples so you can get a general idea of what Poll Everywhere can do. All right, so there's a lot of different options you can make. So yes, probably the LAD. All right, so now let's do Kahoot. All righty, so you guys are going to go to Kahoot.it and type in that number. So Kahoot.it and type in that code. And then you get to make a fun name. If you use something dirty, it will make you a new name. Kahoot was made for kindergartners. So you will get an error that says no naughty names, and we will see at the bottom that you tried a naughty name, and then it'll make you like Red Fox or something boring. You can use emojis. My residents love using emojis. All sorts of monkeys and other emojis that I have no idea how to make. Oh, someone made a dinosaur. Someone made a monkey. Oh, you guys are quick. All right, so you all have different nicknames. I'll give you guys another 10 seconds to log in. My residents also like using each other's names just to confuse things. So sometimes there's like 4 Feldmans, and I'm just like, you guys. All righty. 5 more seconds. Hurry up if you're not in. You'll miss out on all the fun. All righty, so we're going to play Kahoot. Forgot I can't do that down here. All righty. 6 questions. Time matters and being right matters. What is the capital of this state? Maybe someone from here is from this state. Everyone else, you're hosed. All right, so it has a timer that's a maximum time, but it's also counting you guys, so if we get to where everyone's answered, it'll move on. All right, nice distribution, but Montpellier is right. All right. So unicorns in the lead, followed by koala, King of the North. Strong work on King of the North. I like that one. What movie is this? Confident answers this time, guys. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Oh, good job, you guys. All right, koala took the lead, unicorns behind. What country is this? The red arrow. Belgium. All right, most of you guys got it. I'm impressed. Unicorn took the lead. Oh, koala, where'd you go? Who is this? I think that's the most confident so far. I'm glad we are all up on pop culture. Oh, almost 100%. Go you guys. That was Emma Stone. All right, DPL took the lead. I don't know where Unicorn went. Second to last one. What sport is this? Almost everyone got it. DPL still. All right, last one. What band is this? Picture. Used to be a video. I forgot I had to change it. Oh, way more split on that, but that was Led Zeppelin. Alrighty, DPL 1, GAL next, and AAJ NOLA next. Alright guys, so that's Kahoot. You've now experienced Kahoot. Was made for kindergartners, but let's face it, we're kindergartners. So we love it. I love it as a faculty member. My residents love it. We do reading quizzes every single week with that, and our residents get very, very competitive. On the back end, when you're creating the quizzes, it's very easy to do a variety of questions like I just showed you guys, and you can actually see the results. So if you wanted to track your residents, you could actually give them a number and make them always use that number, and then they can add whatever silly emoji they want. That way you can know who's who, or you could just ask them to use their real names. So you actually get reports on that. So I will get reports on all of you and how you guys just did on that quiz. Alrighty, so just you guys all have access to this slide. It's just a breakdown of the differences between the different audience response systems and what they do. So let's talk about a couple of other engaging activities. So let's talk about small group learning. Small group learning is typically just case-based learning. So usually you're going to create a bunch of cases about a particular topic, have an HPI, have a physical exam, and then have questions about the management of that topic. It's probably one of the easiest things to make, okay? So you guys can all do this. The biggest issue is you just need faculty or chiefs to run them. So you need enough to make groups. Typically, the ideal size of a group is about 5 to 6. Getting bigger than that, it's not really small groups anymore, okay? So small group learning is very easy. Games and simulations. So this could include like a disaster triage exercise that they were doing yesterday at my residency while I was here. So they were all outside, and the OR, they actually had to play operation before they were allowed to move on to the next case. And they had to manage the cases and decide who could go where, and they only had 3 operation games. They only had 3 ORs, so they could only work through 3 cases at a time, and they had to triage a bunch of disasters based on that. I mean, that was just the OR part, but they were doing black tagging and stuff like that. You can do homemade task trainers. On the bottom right corner is a perimortem C-section task trainer that we have our residents doing. The first picture is her realizing that she was pregnant. She was going to have to do a perimortem C-section. And one of our games we played neuro charades, which sounds terrible, but who likes neuroanatomy and remembering where different strokes are? That was your favorite part of med school, right? Yeah? No? It's a lot more fun when you make people act it out. It makes everything better. So as soon as people are starting to like fake hemiparesis or like dizziness, so much more fun. And I think my residents actually got a lot more out of it than they probably did most of med school. So you can do all sorts of things with games. We also do a lot of escape rooms, which are basically a variety of puzzles like this one. It's a bunch of poison antidotes, and they have to color in which antidote is which, and then match it on the wall, and one of them has a black light correct answer that tells them their next room, and the other ones tell them, you're wrong, try again. So there's a variety of different games. I'll tell you where you can go to find these things. The golden rule, games are fun, but they are not always the best way, okay? So if you are going to make a game, please determine your objectives and your learning goals first, and then decide if a game is really the best way to do that. We were trying to decide how we could teach them different stroke types and what their presentations were, and I just couldn't bring myself to lecture at them. And I decided that neuro charades was actually going to meet my objectives that day. But that's not always true. So don't make games just for the sake of making games. All right, so a couple of resources. MedEd Portal and JetEM have these things. They have small group sessions on them. They have escape rooms on them. They have games that you can play. So go to them and just see if there's something you can edit a little bit and use for your learners. Sometimes you can just use it as is, okay? So keep those in mind. Easy resources that you can recreate without a lot of effort. You just kind of have to look through them and know what you're doing and review the topics. So in general, didactic planning tips. Just try to mix it up. Games for 5 hours is also going to get old. Small groups for 5 hours is also going to get old. And lectures still have a place. Every now and then, you just need that old doc who knows everything there is to know about EKGs to give an EKG lecture. Because they do it really well, even if you don't want to listen to them for 4 hours. So, for example, this was actually our didactic conference schedule yesterday. So first we had a lecture on bites and envenomations by our talks guy. Then we did an hour and a half of disaster triage. Then we did environmental emergency small groups, we did our M&Ms, and then we had announcements and reading quizzes, okay? So just break it up when you're planning your didactics. Make a structure and mix it up. We do not have hour-long sessions except for our M&M. We have broken our lecture sessions into 45 minutes, and when we invite a speaker, we inform them that they have 45 minutes, not an hour, all right? And just that shortening of lectures, if you do nothing else in your didactic planning, just shorten your lectures. If it can be done in an hour, I guarantee you it can be done in 45 minutes. Alrighty, so let's talk a little bit about slide design and tips, but all of these slides are available online for you guys. So for images and slides, coolers.co, super fun website that you might lose hours of your life on. So you go on here and it actually will just make color schemes for you. So you can pick one color, and then if you like one color in the scheme but not the others, you can lock that one in, and it'll come up a new color scheme. Hours of your life. Great fun. But good way to make colors for your slides. If you are going to find images on Google for slides, please make sure they're large. So what you're going to do is once you go to images, you're going to go to tools, you're going to come over here and you're going to go slide, and you're going to pick large. That should be large enough for most lectures. Just it minimizes, takes out all those low resolution images that you don't want. For that matter, if you're going to give talks at a larger conference like here, I can't just steal any images I want. So you can also filter by usage rights. Once you go to tools, it's the third from the right. Usage right, you can either do non-commercial reuse, modification, non-commercial reuse, or just straight reuse, okay? Typically, this would be considered non-commercial reuse. I'm not making money off of being here with you guys. Best slide design book ever, Slideology. So if you just want to read one book and get the general gist of how to make slides, read Slideology. Great book, very, very engaging. No audiobook because it's all about the pictures, unfortunately. So different ways you can emphasize things on your slides. You could use a different size. You could use a different shape. You could use a different shade, a different color, or you can pull something out to emphasize it. So experiment with different text size and positioning, for example. So if you have a minor point, make it smaller. Don't just follow a PowerPoint template. They're boring. If you're going to present data, make sure you articulate the point you want. So if we look at the slide on the left, what's my point? Like, is it that it dropped for the first quarter? Is it that it's risen from quarter 2, 3, and 4? Is it the low point? I don't know what you're getting at. So point it out. The point is that we had this low point in quarter 2. That was the point I wanted you to get. So if you're going to present data, make sure you present exactly what you want everyone to know. Toolbox for Keynote and Microsoft Office is a really great resource. You can make infographics out of it. It has a lot of great images and icons and things that you can use for your slides that, because you own it, are all accessible. eDraw for Windows will also allow you to make infographics. And PictoChart, which has educational pricing, will also allow you to make infographics. All right? Canva has just a bunch of slide layouts and designs for you, so you can just pick one, and it'll actually give you all of the slide layouts. They're just way more interesting than what's in PowerPoint or Keynote. All right, so really quickly, we've got 1 minute. I wanted to show you guys a couple of examples. So I did not make these. Some of my colleagues did. But objectives. Objectives are boring. How can you make them more interesting? You can move through them. You can shade out the ones you're not talking about. You can have icons that represent them. So that's one example. And then in the end, you could have each objective slide as you reach that point light back up. All right? Another way to do it, very similar. You're kind of moving through each point as it goes. It's not supposed to be doing that. It did not convert to PowerPoint properly. And I'll just do one more. If you're going to do a graph or something, make it a little easier to look at. This is boring. No one understands what your point is. So make it colorful, emphasize your points, or color code it in the same way you want. But we are out of time, guys, but there are like 80 more slides here with different ways of how to do board review slides, how to do data slides, how to do evidence-based medicine slides. So look at the slides online and just steal them. Does anyone have any questions? All right, I will be here in the afternoon session. I can't do the lunch, but I'll be here in the afternoon if anyone has any other questions.
So let's give Dr. Toohey a big hand.